Okay, so we can post new sections for a particular course to the server. Let's now store it in the database. Right, so to do that, we're going to do more or less what we did for the user. Right? We need to create a session. We need to create a schema. We need to create a model. Right? We need to describe the data that we're storing. Right? So to do that, we're going to, in our models directory, we're going to create another directory for sections. And in here, we're going to create the schema and the model. Right? It's very much like we did for the user. So in here, we create here section dot schema dot server.js. Right? And that schema is going to look somewhere like, well, we need mongoose, so const mongoose. We're going to require mongoose. And export, we're going to export the following. We're going to say mongoose schema, and then describe the schema. Right? So we have a title. That's going to be a string. And what else do we need? We'll also need the course ID, right? So that we know that what are we connected to. I'm going to make it a string so that if it's not an integer, I don't want this to blow up, right? The course might have some ID that is not an integer, right? It might be some weird, GUID that uniquely identifies. So I'm not sure what it is, so I'm just going to make it a generic string. Everybody okay? All right. I'm also going to configure that I want this to be stored in a collection called section. Sections. I don't like plurals, so especially for data types and things like that. So it's a singular. All right. So notice that we don't have that, right? In here, if we show the collections, we only have the user collection. We don't have a sections collection, right? And we're going to create that in a minute. And so there's our sections schema. We're done. Let's now create a model for it. So this will be section.model.server.js. Okay. And in here, we're going to, again, same thing. We're going to load the mongoose, require mongoose. And we're going to create our model. Right, so we'll probably also need the schema, the section schema. So let's load that. So section schema. So let's require the schema. There it is. And now we're ready to create our model. Right? So this will be section model. Will be mongoose .model. .model, and we're going to register it as section model. There it is. And say that the data type that we're going to be storing to a database have the following structure, section schema. That's the structure of what would all right. So the very first, so this file is going to host all the CRUD operations for sections, right? So here we should be able to create sections, find all the sections, delete a section, update a section, things like that, right? So let's add here. One of the things that we need right now is at least be able to create a new section. Right? So that's at least that's what we're trying to do here, right? Because we are receiving this post, and we would like to be able to create the section, from this post. Yes, right? So this will be the function will be create section that takes as argument the section object, and what does it do? It uses the low-level section model, right? We'll use the low-level create functions from Mongoose. That just does an insert, right? So this .create does the actual insert in the database, right? And then it returns a promise saying, I've done it, I'm in the process, I'm waiting for the server to come back and respond to me successfully, but here's a promise in a minute, I'll get back to you in a minute. All right, so we have that. Now we need to export all our behaviors in this module. We need to export it so that folks can use this behavior from outside of this file. Okay, so where do I want to use it from? In particular, I want to use it from this service, right? This service, when I have the section in the body, I like to be able to create, insert in the database. So let's export this. We'll say module.exports, and this will be our API. So create section, create section. Now remember, this is just a plain old JSON object, right? This is a shorthand for this, right? You know that, right? It's a shorthand for that. It's just a plain old JSON object, right? In ES6, if the key and the value have the same value, the same spelling, right? You can abbreviate it by just dropping the value. Again, it creates and expands it for name-value pair. Okay. All right. So we're exporting that. Now that we're exporting it, we can now go back to our service and use the request body because we know the section is in the body, right? We can instead of console log, we can say, grab the model, right? Grab the const the section model, load that from where is it? So let's go back up one, down to models, down to sections, down to section model. There it is. So load that, and then use the post to actually insert. So it would be section model dot create section. I'm going to pass the request.body, right? Because the section is in the body, right? That's just going to return a promise, right? That we're going to wait for the promise to come back, right? Here's the section object that was inserted, right? The promise passes us back the actual object that was inserted. It comes back here, and now we're guaranteed that the section has been inserted, and now we can respond and say response dot send back the actual section that was inserted, right? Not that the client is going to do anything with it, right? But it's a nice thing to say, hey, it was inserted. Hey, look, if you need the ID that was inserted in the database, well, here it is. Here's the whole object that was inserted. You can take a look at it. Notice that this one is I can remove these curly brackets. I think. Yes, I can remove the curly bracket. And then I don't need this semicolon. Everybody good? All right, so let's try it out. Let's restart the server. Let's see if this blows up now. Okay, so remember, we don't have any section collection in the database. So let's try it out. Let's create now a section for course 1. So this was course 1, section 1, right? And I'm going to say add. All right, we sent it. Let's see what it responded. Notice that it came back from the server. See that? The post? That's the post we sent. Yeah, with the payload. And what came back from the server is exactly the same information we sent plus the underscore ID. That means that it was inserted, right? In Mongo. Right? So we can, if we look at the collections, show collection, notice that section is now in there. That wasn't there before, right? And we can take a look at it in there. So db.section.find.pretty. And indeed, the sections are there. All the that particular section is there. And we know from what course it belongs to, course number 1, right? Let's just create a couple more. Right. So this will be section 2, add, and section 3, add. Now we're going to do it for course number 2. So this will be course 2, section 1, and then section 2. Okay. If you go back to the database, and we do a find, we have all the sections, section 1, 2, and 3 for course 1, and then section 1 and 2 for course number 2. And notice that course ID is correct. See that? Course ID is correct. Everybody okay? All right. So the next thing is that we would like to populate down below all these courses, all these sections that we have created, right? So let's take a look at how we would do that. So let's take a look at that next.